take months of babbling and cooing to form your parents what your parents thought was enough to be mama or dada? What if language could be enhanced at an earlier age? I think parents should educate their deaf children with sign language even if they're focusing on oral language. We've all been at a time in our lives when we evaluate where we might be if we started learning something sooner, maybe a musical instrument or how to build a car or learning a new language. The earlier you start, the greater the advantage. A good number of children can benefit from sign language as a first language. Studies prove that learning sign language to help connect concepts to an oral language bridges the education gap. And electronic devices fail to solely keep deaf and hard of hearing children on pace. We'll start with some numbers. How many people could this really affect? The United States National Institute of Deaf and Other Communication Disabilities tells us about 2 to 3 out of every 1,000 children in the United States are born deaf or hard of hearing, and 9 out of 10 children are born deaf, with both born to parents who can hear. On April 2nd, 2012, an article from the Harm Reduction Journal by Humphreys, Kesslinger, Mather, Napoli, Patton, and Ruthven continue this point by saying, after birth, hearing loss jumps the number up to 6 to 7 per 1,000 kids by the time they're in school, concluding that there is a significant number of children affected. In the U.S. American Psychological Association, Leesburg, Schuck, and Spencer state in an article posted on July 30th, 2012, entitled Language and Literacy Development of Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Success and Challenges, quote, Mayberry and colleagues conducted a series of studies that showed that such adults, even after 20 to 40 years of experience using ASL as their primary means of communication, had significant language deficits compared to native deaf and deaf parent signers. The same article goes on to say the extent of linguistic deficits, furthermore, are highly correlated with the age of their individual exposure to ASL, suggesting a critical period for acquiring a natural sign language as a first language. Now we'll look at how sign language can help. Christian Snowden writes an article for the Canadian Modern Language Review in June of 2008 saying, statistics indicate that a majority of deaf children are deprived of access to full language when they begin school, and they fall steadily behind when their hearing impairs through each grade. Lack of access to the sign language environment underlines the problems faced by deaf late first language learners. She also notes that the critical period hypothesis has been demonstrated with research on deaf people who sign. There is evidence from the benefit that learning ASL confers on spoken and written English language development in deaf children. She continues on by saying children with better developed signing skills were also better at spoken language as well. Further stating, developing both sign and spoken language growth promotes English literacy too. Why can't you just use electronic devices to compensate? The article mentions earlier by Christian Snowden warns about alternatives. When using devices like the cochlear implant, it can help with sound and speech, but results vary from child to child and don't make the deaf hearing. It makes them functional and bridges the gap between deaf and hard of hearing, not necessarily the deaf in hearing. Even the hard of hearing enhances electronic devices can't keep up with the pace with hearing community on average. The average is 55% less than hearing children. Christian goes on to point out that the oral learning opportunity at a rate of 40 to 60% less than normal. Even if a family decides they want their deaf and hard of hearing child to communicate purely through vocals, they would benefit with the early sign language as a base to build fundamental languages. Deaf and hard of hearing children require an early foundation that is naturally visual when they lack auditory sensory. When your interest in sign language will grow in recognition and prove benefit to the population as a whole, bringing the national literacy average up. Deaf and hard of hearing is not a disability. It is an ability to do things differently.